The ability to create a convincing argument plays an important role in your life, both personally and professionally. Sometimes your attempt to persuade will be mundane. Hey, let's eat at that new Mexican place instead of the usual. Sometimes the argument may be with yourself, and the outcome, life-changing. Should I leave America for that great new job in Bulgaria? Often the argument will be work-related. Dear company president, we must invest in new security software. Regardless of time, place, or purpose, you want your arguments to be sound and persuasive. First, your argument should have a thesis that clearly states your position on the topic. This position is sometimes called your claim, and it has two parts: the topic plus your opinion on the topic. Put those two parts together, and you should have a strong thesis for your argument. Let's look at an example. Our topic, drunk drivers. Our position on drunk drivers: revoke their licenses immediately. Combining those two parts produces a thesis. Anyone found guilty of drunk driving should have their licenses revoked immediately. Another example. Topic: American mass transit. Position on the topic: it's coming, like it or not. Combine those two parts together and you have a thesis. Americans will soon be using mass transit, like it or not. Because the thesis is the backbone of your argument, there are three common pitfalls to know and avoid. First, the announcement thesis. An announcement thesis might say something like, my paper will discuss drunk drivers and revoking their licenses. Or, in this paper, I will examine the drunk driver issue. As you see, the announcement is too general to serve as the strong thesis you need. Next is the simple statement of fact. For example, drunk drivers present a danger to highway safety. That's a clear statement of fact, but few people would disagree with it. In other words, the factual statement doesn't offer a clear, debatable position or an opinion of what should be done. Last is the absolute statement. An absolute implies something is always true without exception. An example would be, all drunk drivers deserve the harshest punishment by law. To refute this absolute statement about all drunk drivers, an opponent need only point out a single exception. Another important consideration is your audience, those whom you're trying to persuade. For an argument essay, audiences can be divided into three main categories. First, the agreeing audience. Most in this audience already accept your basic position. Thus, your focus might be to convince this group to take action towards your goal. This audience wouldn't need the sobering statistics and the gruesome photos of the carnage caused by drunk drivers. Your tone, instead, could be upbeat and positive as you encourage them to take action. Most people in the neutral or middle-of-the-road audience haven't made up their minds yet on the issue. So, your purpose would be to bring them to your side of the debate. In our example, the focus of your content would be to convince them of the grave problem of drunk drivers and the need to be concerned. Your serious tone would match your approach to the topic. And finally, the toughest audience, the disagreeers. These people hold the opposite opinion to yours. Thus, your goal will be modest, to find common ground and persuade them to be open-minded enough to at least give your ideas a fair hearing. Your tone must be respectful if you hope to make any progress. An important strategy for the last two groups, neutral and disagreeing, is to bring in one or more of the opposing side's arguments, then to cast doubt on it to show its flaws. For example, those opposed to immediately revoking any drunk driver's license might argue that doing so imposes a, quote, undue economic hardship, to which you might reply, when it comes to choosing between inconveniencing a drunk driver's transportation to work or the death of innocent people on the highway, I'm confident responsible people like you will make the right choice. Finally, the heart of any argument is your supporting points, which must be valid and relevant. Consider, for example, this thesis. School uniforms should be mandatory. Your supporting reasons are that school uniforms reduce costs for families, improve classroom discipline, make schools safer, and save students time when getting dressed. Do you see a problem with that last point? Saving time is certainly a valid point, but it's not truly relevant in an argument about the education of children. Valid and relevant evidence is key to a persuasive argument. It's helpful to think of 4 types of evidence: facts, statistics, experts, and examples. Let's look at each. When it comes to clothing costs for families, you could offer this fact, published in The Guardian. School uniforms are a hidden cost of so-called free public education, especially for struggling families. When it comes to improving discipline in the classroom, you could offer a statistical study, like the one by the National Institutes of Health, which found that students in schools that require uniforms do not demonstrate better behavior than non-uniform schools. When it comes to making schools safer, you could cite experts like the National School Safety and Security Services, which found that school uniforms are only effective when part of a broader security policy and not as a standalone policy. When it comes to behavior, you could cite the example of an Ohio State University study, which found that, quote, arguments about school uniforms being good for student behavior do not hold up. Okay, good luck with your argument and persuasive essay.